Hello learners, welcome to Divya's English Realm. Today you will listen to the explanation of the story in the Kingdom of Fools by A.K. Ramanujan. This is chapter number 4, taken from the supplementary book Moments. So this story is a Kannada folktale. Folktales are very old traditional stories from a particular place that were passed from generation to generations orally. So the title itself announces that this story is of a kingdom which was inhabited by fools. So let's find out who are the fools in the story and what happens to them. In the kingdom of fools, both the king and the ministers were idiots. They didn't want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change night into day and day into night. They ordered that everyone should be awake at night, till their fields and run their businesses only after dark, and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. The people did as they were told for fear of death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. One day a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. It was a beautiful day. It was broad daylight, but there was no one about. Everyone was asleep, not a mouse stirring. Even the cattle had to be taught to sleep by day. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around town till evening, when suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly business. So in this kingdom, the king and the ministers, they were very foolish. No, they didn't want to rule the way the other kings did. So for that purpose, they changed night into day and day into night, and they ordered that everyone in the kingdom, they have to do all the activities at the night time, like farming activities like tilling and all, and running their businesses and all. And during the daytime, they need to go to bed. Now, if anyone disobeyed them, they would be punished with death. And so due to fear of death, everyone obeyed. And the king and the minister, they were very happy that they had succeeded in their plan. And so in this kingdom, one day came Guru and his disciple. And though it was daytime, they were very surprised to see that nobody was seen around. Not even a mouse was moving. And even the cattle, they were sleeping. And the two strangers, they were very much amazed by seeing the things around, and throughout the day they just wandered in the town. And surprisingly, at evening they saw that the people are moving around and the business has started. Now the two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, they went to buy some groceries, to buy some foodstuffs. To their astonishment, they found that everything cost the same, a single daru. Whether they bought a measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a daru. The guru and his disciples, they were very happy. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. So here, a rupee is a very small, you can say a small amount for us, isn't it? But that time it was quite a big amount. And so they were very much happy that everything, usually the things which were costly, that thing and the things that bag very low price, all of could be bought just by a daru. This unit is smaller than a rupee. And so they were very much happy here. When they had cooked and eaten, the Guru realized that this was a kingdom of fools and it wouldn't be a good idea for them to stay there. This is no place for us, let's go, he said to the disciple. But the disciple didn't want to leave the place. Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good, cheap food. So here we see that the Guru, he realized that the things weren't the way it looks. The things will change. And so he told the disciple that this is not a good place to live, we should move from here. But the disciple, he wanted to be there because all he wanted was good, cheap food, and everything in the kingdom was cheap. So the Guru said, they are all fools. This won't last very long. and you can't tell what they will do to you next. Because the fools know they are very unpredictable. They can harm you. And so he made him understand, but the disciple wouldn't listen to the Guru's wisdom. He wanted to stay. The Guru finally gave up and said, "Do what you want. I am going," and left. The disciple stayed on, ate his fill every day, bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and grew fat like a street side sacred bull. So here we see that the disciple didn't obey the Guru's wise words. No, he wanted to stay there, and the Guru, he finally understood that this fellow is not going to listen to me, and so he just said that, "You stay here, I'm going," and so he left. And the disciple, he stayed there, and he ate as much as he wanted. No, and what all things he ate, children? Bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and he grew fat like a street side sacred bull. One bright day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in, and as he was carrying out his loot, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. His brother ran to the king and complained, "Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to blame. He should have built a good, strong wall. You must punish the wrongdoer and compensate the family for this injustice." So one day during the day, a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. Okay, and so how he broke into, children? He made a hole in the wall, and secretly he came into the merchant's house. And the time he was carrying out his loot, whatever he has stolen, while he was carrying it back through the same hole, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head. It fell on his head, and he was killed on the spot. On the spot means instantly. And his brother, he ran to the king and he complained that, "Your Highness, when my brother, he was carrying out his ancient trade," he doesn't say that he was stealing, okay, he was carrying his ancient trade, "a wall fell on him, and this wall was of merchant's house, and so he was blamed for the death," right? And he said that no, he should be punished, and he should compensate the family for this injustice. It was an injustice done to the thief. If the thief would have run away with the things, that would have been fine, isn't it? The king said, "Justice will be done. Don't worry," and at once summoned the owner of the house. The king said, "Justice will be done. Don't worry," and at once summoned the owner of the house. After listening to all what the thief's brother said, the king, he called for the owner of the house, who was a rich merchant. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, "What's your name?" "Such and such, Your Highness." "Were you at the home when the dead man burgled your house?" "Yes, my lord." "He broke in and the wall was weak. It fell on him." The accused pleads guilty. "Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you." So here when the merchant arrives, the king questioned him, and he asked the time when he died. "Were you there at home the time So he says yes. And so the king said, "As your wall has killed the man's brother, you have murdered a man, and so you will be punished for that." "Lord," said the helpless merchant, "I didn't put up the wall." "I didn't put up the wall" means I didn't make that wall. "It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build it right. You should punish him." Here the rich merchant, he blames now the man who built the wall. And so the king asked, "Who is that?" "My lord, this wall was built in my father's time. I know the man. He is an old man now. He lives nearby." Now the merchant, he told that old man, the mason, he lives nearby. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and foot. Imagine, children, he was an older man. Do you think he would have run away? No way. Then also he was brought tied hand and foot. And so the king asked him, "You there, did you build this man's wall in this father's time?" "Oh yes, my lord, I did." "What kind of a wall is that you built? It has fallen on a poor man and killed him. You have murdered him. We have to punish you by death." So here when the old man, he agrees that he had built the wall that has collapsed, so the king, he puts the blame, isn't it? Now he said, "You are the murderer then, and we need to punish you for that." So before the king could order the execution means punishment with death, the poor bricklayer, he pleaded. What he said? "Please listen to me before you give your orders. It's true I built this wall and it was no good. But that was because my mind was not on it. I remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling. I couldn't keep my eyes or my mind on the wall I was building. You must get that dancing girl. I know where she lives." So now here we see that the poor bricklayer, the mason, he puts all the blame on the dancing girl. He told the king that that particular day when he was building this wall, what happened, that dancing girl, she was just many a time she has passed by that way, and because of that he couldn't concentrate. He was being distracted, and so it just caused the poor quality of wall. And so he said, if ever anybody has to be blamed, it should be the dancing girl. You are right. The case deepens. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. Let's get that dancer wherever she is. So now after hearing to the poor bricklayer, the king says that you are very right, that you are not the one to be blamed. There you have, in the deep, we have to think about the case. It doesn't seem to be an ordinary case. It's a very complicated one. And so now he calls for the dancing girl. The dancing girl, now an old woman, she came trembling to the court. She is also very afraid why she has been called, Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? Do you think, children, people will ever remember? But then also he asked that lady. And the dancing girl said, "Yes, my lord, I remember it very well." "So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and so you distracted him. So he built a bad wall." See how he, now what the king says, that the poor man was right. It was all because that day many a time you passed in front of him and your anklets were sounding, and so this, as that time you were beautiful and young, and so you distracted this fellow, and so he built a bad wall. It has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man. You will have to be punished. You imagine here the king is telling that bad wall had fallen on the burglar and he was killed, and he was an innocent man. Imagine, children, the king calling so. But everything is possible, because you see, everything is possible when the fools rule, isn't it? She thought for a minute and said, "My lord, wait. I know now why I was walking up and down that street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was a lazy scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said he would give it now and he would give it then, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down to his house dozen times. That was when this bricklayer saw me. It's not my fault. My lord, it is the damn goldsmith's fault." So when the girl was blamed, The girl, she thought for a minute and she told that it was not her mistake at all. It was all the mistake of the goldsmith, who made her to move up and down the whole day because she had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry, but he didn't complete in time and he made him to pass many a time. And that's the time when the bricklayer, he saw her, and then he was distracted, and then she said that it's not her fault at all, it's all the fault of the goldsmith. Yeah, she says it's the damn goldsmith's fault. Yeah, when you're angry, you use this word damn. Poor thing, she is absolutely right. After hearing to her, the king says that she is not one to be blamed. No, and seeing all the evidences and all, we have got the real culprit at last. Now here the king says that at last we got the real culprit. It is whom? The goldsmith. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once. Do you think he was hiding somewhere, children? But here he always says no matter wherever he is, just go and find him. The king's bailiffs searched for the goldsmith. Bailiffs means they are the officials, those who enforce the law. Means now at present time we can say like the police. Yeah. So the king's bailiffs, they searched for the goldsmith, who was hiding in a corner of his shop. So this goldsmith, he might have come to know that now today this sort of trial is going on, and so he was hiding there. So when he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. When now he was the blame was on him, he had his own story. Now let us hear whom he blames, isn't it? He says, "My lord, I am a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's orders. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient rich men are." Now here we find that the goldsmith was with his own story here. Now he says that I am just a poor goldsmith, and I remember this dancer that day. Many a time she had come to me asking for the jewelry, but no, that time I was very busy completing the order of a rich merchant, because soon a wedding was about to fall. And so he says that you know very well that this rich men, they don't listen. They are so impatient. They don't have any patience. Who is this rich merchant? Who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry, made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of this wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him? Can you name him?